economic situations. Please let it be seen to even as I'm talking about it. Economic situation, or conditions rather, economic conditions. And when we talk about economic conditions, we say how it affects the people. That is, effects on Nigerians, effect on citizens of Nigeria. So we'll look at it. Whether it's good or bad, we'll see and talk about it right on this program today. Welcome again. Okay, let's go there. I mean monetary review when I say let's go there. Kaje, let's get to have the monetary review. Okay, looking at the things that we've seen recently on this review, we have got to look at a kind of combination of what also happens on the stock, so as to bring it together today. Excuse me. Something about that particular one today is on this front burner for me. But I don't want to go political because I have nothing to do with the politicians. That I want to make sure that we're handling the matter the way it ought to be, even as we've talked about it. Look at the fact that Nigeria and Egypt and South Africa are topping Africa's external debt. Let's look at it. Africa's external debt burden is increasingly defined by concentration at the top and vulnerability at the bottom, with just 10 countries accounting for a combined $543.58 billion in foreign obligations as of 2025. According to the latest figures from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, the continent's debt exposure remains heavily skewed towards a few large economies, even as smaller nations grapple with disproportionately high repayment pressures. At the center of the debt stack are South Africa and Egypt, which together account for 60.85% of the total debt among the listed countries. South Africa leads with $200.31 billion, while Egypt follows with $163.91 billion. Figures that reflect both their economic scale and sustained access to international credit markets. Nigeria ranks third with $51.86 billion in external debt, highlighting its continued reliance on foreign borrowing to support fiscal operations and shore up foreign exchange reserves and persistent revenue constraints. Mid-tier borrowers include Tunisia at $43.31 billion, Tanzania $35.54 billion, and Ghana $29.40 billion. These countries have increasingly leaned on multilateral and bilateral funding sources as global financial conditions tighten. Further down the table, Rwanda holds $13.43 billion, while Mauritius and Botswana carry smaller debt loads of $2.14 billion and $2.5 billion respectively. At the bottom is Liberia with $1.63 billion in external debt. Yet, despite its relatively low nominal figure, Liberia remains among the most constrained when debt is measured against economic output. Its external obligations amount to 31.21% in GDP, underscoring structural weaknesses tied to a narrow export base and limited fiscal space. Analysts note that while large economies dominate in absolute terms, the real pressure points are often found in smaller countries where debt servicing consumes a larger share of national income. Rwanda and Tunisia, in particular, stand out as economies where debt to GDP ratios signal heightened vulnerability. The data highlights a widening debt divide across Africa, where scale marks risk at the top and smaller economies face sharper trade-offs between growth, stability, and debt sustainability as global borrowing costs remain elevated. Well, that is just for one. Again, talking about what we still have here, we still find that a lot more still happens as far as these economies and finances are concerned. We will look at this older one that talks about stock market rallies. It says stock market rallies 132 trillion in Tinubu's 3 years of reforms, in the past 3 years anyway. And so stock market has rallied 132 trillion naira in the past 3 years, and the investors earn 107.5 trillion in capital gains, while banking recapitalization and new issues attract FPI's experts lord reforms. Then again, we'll look at that and see how it goes and where it has affected the people as a whole. They said also that food imports have dipped 7.79% to $2.34 billion in 12 months. That is what the CBN says. Nigeria spent $2.34 billion on food imports in 12 months, ended December 2025. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's latest quarterly statistical bulletin has shown the expenditure represents a 7.37% decline from the 2.53 billion recorded in 2024, showing a moderation in food-related foreign exchange demand despite Nigeria's continued reliance on imported food products. Also, the percentage of food imports in total foreign exchange utilization fell more sharply, dropping from 9.49% in 2024 to 4.97% in 2025, as total foreign exchange utilization rose from $26.65 billion to $47.17 billion during the period. The Apex Bank data showed that food imports consumed on an average of $195.28 million monthly in 2025. Likewise, the monthly utilization stood at $213.11 million in January, $195.68 million in February, $141.30 million in March, and $141.13 million in April. It further rose to $202.83 million in May before easing to $171.08 million in June. In the second half of 2015, food import demand strengthened, rising to $229.70 million. In July, $175.55 million. In August, $248.60 million. In September, further analysis of the report showed that the food importers also utilized $193.05 billion in October, $185.45 million in November, and $215.86 million in December. Although food imports remain significant, their share of total foreign exchange utilization declined by 4.52 percentage points from 9.49% in 2024 to 4.97% in 2025. This means food imports took up a smaller portion of overall forex demand even though the economy used more foreign exchange across sectors. And total foreign exchange utilization increased by $20.52 billion, or 77%, from $26.65 billion in 2024 by $47.17 billion in 2025. And so, by contrast, food import utilization fell by $186.40 million from $2.53 billion to $2.34 billion. The decline in food import spending may suggest weaker import demand or improved local substitution in some categories. However, the continued use of more than $2.3 billion for food imports shows that Nigeria still depends heavily on foreign food supply chains. These figures, the figures were based on the foreign trade statistics report by the National Bureau of Statistics. And so we see what goes on that way. And again, Nigeria spent 3.3 trillion naira on data in the first quarter of 2026. Nigerian telecommunication subscribers spent a staggering 3.33 trillion naira on data in the first quarter of 2026. According to the latest industry data from the Nigeria Communications Commission, during the 3 months, internet users consumed a massive 4.06 million terabytes of data, which translates to an average usage of 28 gigabytes per subscriber, cementing data as the primary engine room of the nation's telecommunications sector. Oh well, it's a long one. I don't want to continue to stress it, so I'll just let it be at this. But then, looking at what we have seen and how far we have gone, there is a reason for us to think again about the things that are happening in our country. And I will take the last one, and that last one has to do with cooking gas prices. I mentioned cooking gas prices last week, and here again, we are still talking about cooking gas prices. We've been told that cooking gas prices surged despite higher domestic supply. The price of liquefied petroleum gas, cooking gas, has continued to rise across the country despite a significant increase in its domestic production and a decline in imports. The data obtained from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority showed that local production from refineries and gas processing plants accounted for the bulk of Nigeria's LPG supply between April 2025 and 2026, reducing the country's dependence on imports. However, the increased domestic supply has not translated into lower prices for consumers, with the cost of cooking gas rising to as high as 2,000 naira per kilogram in some parts of the country. According to NMDPRA data, the average daily domestic LPG supply ranged between 3,300 and 4,500 tons throughout the period under review. In March and April 2026, local supply stood at 4,500 tons per day, accounting for the majority of national LPG availability. In contrast, imports by oil marketing companies declined considerably during the period. Imported volumes fell to 200 tons per day in March 2026 compared with 1,600 tons per day in November 2025 and 1,500 tons per day in December 2025. And the report showed that total average daily LPG supply ranged between 4,200 tons and 5,200 tons, peaked at 5,200 tons per day in December 2025, before settling for 4,500 tons by April 2026. And it's a problem, I must say, that it's a serious problem, that despite the fact that we have started doing more of the local production of these products, the cost has still gone on higher than the way it was. And if nothing is done, it will continue. Okay, thank you. Welcome back here. Let's talk. Looking at the fact that, let's begin with the last thing, sir. The last thing has to do with the gas consumption, that is LPG, liquefied product. And we have it in our country. Now, it is no longer like when we used to import it from outside. It is now being done here. Not that there's no import anymore, but at least majority of it is done here. And there is more of consumption level, which normally should have been that it's a situation where we say, okay, it's better now, it's getting cheaper. But the other way is what we have seen, the exact opposite, that even as there is more consumption and there's local production, the price is soaring. What do you think about this, my brother?
Well, you know, it's just a simple economics explanation. You know, consumption doesn't necessarily mean a downfall of price. You know, you look at the cost of production. In most cases, is the major determinant of price in the market. You look at that logistics. That is you know, the logistics in production is actually the major factor that is considered when we talk about production price, or you talk about you know, movement and all of that. In fact, look at our petrol as an example. You saw what Dangote has done.
Yes.
That he now supply directly to some filling station directly without charges, with his own CNG tank. You know, so I mean, he decided to do so because the logistics alone that most of these marketers would have incurred, some of these maybe you call them dealers of those filling stations would have incurred. It would have been directly impact the price
on the people that are buying.
And so in terms of maybe mass production for more consumption, that is not really the major price determinant of any product. It is mainly about the logistics that determines price. You know, so once your cost of production is high, of course, the consumers will be the ones to suffer for it. And that is why, you know, that's what we are seeing now in Nigeria, in the household in Nigeria today. And that's why you've seen that the price of gas continue to rise. I mean, who would have thought of it a few years ago that, you know, Nigeria will get to a point where a kg of gas will be 2,000 or about 1,008 or 1,006. Nobody would have seen it coming.
Yes, of course. You know, when you say who would have thought of it, I mean, it's almost an impossible thing to think of, because I mean, not long ago, the 12.5 kg was 5,000.
So of course, I mean, you can just go back to like 2015 and you begin to imagine the comparative between the price today and what we have, you know, today. And the ripple effect is that you are certainly going to see the same negative effect in even the price of consumption. I mean, your consumption price, because for instance, if your production price is high, of course, by natural precedence, of course, you expect manufacturers to also increase price, and then consumption suffer for it. I mean, those
we will definitely return, because I want us to continue with this. But then let's take a little break. We'll return almost immediately.
If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones. And we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of 6 strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's no longer going to be business as usual. Whatever that may be.
Okay, that is a bit of what we have seen that is happening in our country today. You know, that gas matter. Looking at it, just as you were saying, it's almost a kind of thing. I wonder. There are certain trends that are not okay. why should the cost of production be so much higher now than when it was? I mean, than what it was that buying it, if we were to buy it from abroad. It shouldn't be.
Of course, it shouldn't be. In fact, most Nigerians have predicted, or some analysts have actually predicted that with the coming of Dangote into play in our country, having
a lot more
such
a
gigantic production capacity, we come about the easiness of production, and the price, in our country. But at the same time, for instance, you look at PMS, crude oil, as an example now to this, you discover that even Dangote is not getting adequate supply.
Yes, that is even important.
That he needs. And so, despite the fact that this is locally refined, but the production, the supply of the raw material is not locally supplied. It is imported and bought within the same range of international markets. And so, once that is done, of course, you still expect almost the same thing we are seeing today. And that's exactly what you are seeing, in gas, in other aspects of energy sectors in Nigeria. Because
a lot of the fuel, honestly, is annoying. Petrol in Nigeria. It's really painful that we're seeing it the way we're seeing it today. That get to most of filling stations 1,400.
Yeah, that's what we see today. Prior to 2023 election, we were buying in this same country. As at that time, where most people were even crying that, PMS is so expensive per liter now. So many Nigerians were
Don't you have filling stations around?
Many Nigerians were against the government in terms of price of crude, of PMS that time. But as at then, prior to when President Buhari handed over power, PMS pump price was still 210 naira.
Yes.
210.
Yes.
But the removal of subsidy, naturally, increased the price, skyrocketed the market. And then today we are now talking about close to 1,400. In fact, some state I heard it's already around 1,400 already.
Yeah, because this one you're talking about 1,400 is still about the stations that are controlled by Dangote. Because those ones that are out of his control, they still have higher. Yes. They can get it 1,500, 1,600.
Also because of his logistic intervention.
Yes, because of his intervention. So I wonder how we would have to be looking at such a thing that this is what we will see in our country today. Well, the impact on the people. The economic situation or economic condition. Let's look at it. The economic situation, in fact, condition. Let's go back to that point. This economic condition. 2 words. There is positive. There is negative. Which one would you prefer to use?
Of course, it's the poor people, especially those who classify as a proletariat under this economy or this socio-economic stratification in Nigeria, and the one who suffers for it. And so it is purely, if you ask a man who is struggling on the street, obviously you're going to get a negative result on his economy.
And there are many more people, many more men struggling on the road than those who are in their offices enjoying.
Yeah, if you, of course, in terms of number, of course, Nigeria, you just go and look at the unemployment rate, even though I'm, disagreeing with some of this data right now, but you don't even need to look at data. You discover there are so many people who are unemployed in Nigeria. Many people are into this, microeconomy stratification in Nigeria. But overall rating of it, of course, that the negative impact is very huge on our, on most Nigerians actually, because you just need to go around to different states in Nigeria and you discover that so many people are struggling to run even this small scale business. You have somebody who, because everything we do in this part of the world is surround within this energy supply. It is either you are using PMS or you are using gas. In fact, there was a time where people started converting
Yes,
their generators to CNG, and then say, okay, this will be more affordable, and then it lasts longer.
Not even to CNG, but to LPG.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's to gas supply anyway. I mean, because of the fuel, and then suddenly we start, started hearing so many other stories of the danger, or even the carburetor, how it affects it, and so on. So people right now are suffering. I mean, are struggling to power even the smallest shop. Because if, just take an example, if you have a barber who you take your hair to go and cut your hair, and then you have to use generator, and the fuel now per liter is, let's say, 1,004, and then you are paying how much? I wonder. Let's say you are paying 1,000, and you have to stand to cut your hair within 30 minutes. Is that not? Is the fuel not over? So that's the irony of where we find ourselves. And then the alternative that we talk about, renewable energy alternative, when they talk about solar and inverter alternative, how many people can afford it?
That's the thing.
How many people can afford it? It is not. These are capital intensive projects.
Yes,
it's not
the things that you can just handle.
It's not something you can just wake up and say, oh, I want to change my. I mean, I want to do power this place to become, to have my solar, to have my panel, to have my batteries, and so on and so on. These are very expensive things right now, and these are some of the equal effects that came about the inflation that was that we inherited through subsidy removal.
Yes.
The subsidy removal actually brought about a lot of untold hardship to Nigerians in terms of economy of most Nigerians, because that inflation. I mean, you can just imagine that prior to 2023 election, we were buying, at least, even though everybody was shouting at them,
yes, of course,
the price is high, and it was 210 naira.
Yes.
So now compared to what we are today. Now government will want to say, okay, but there was also a government intervention in terms of social intervention. They talk about minimum wage as one of the factors they will, of course, argue with. But how much was that?
Minimum wage. How much that you can't go to the market with and come out with?
Exactly. Prior to 2023, you have minimum wage to be 30,000. I think about 30,000,
35,000
thereabout. And then now today you have 70,000, isn't it? And now, when you look at in fact, as at that time, let's say 35,000 or 30,000, it was more useful.
It was
more useful because the inflation was not at this peak level. I'll give you an example. I think a crate of egg used to be, in this same country, a few years back, used to be 800 naira. A complete crate of egg. And then if you have to buy pieces, sometimes you can buy 20 naira for an egg, and then sometimes you get 3 for 50 naira.
50 naira, okay.
And then,
20 naira.
But today, an egg in Nigeria, in some places, is 300.
Yes, 250.
One, it's all 250. If you are lucky in some rural area, maybe you still get 250.
So talk about a crate now.
Yeah. So you now look at the percentage gap in terms of the increment. It is even beyond 200%.
It is far beyond.
And so that's where we find ourselves. So when you now compare the 70,000 as minimum wage today, as compared to 30,000, in 2022, then you will discover that 30,000 was much more greater
than what we have today.
And because of the high level of inflation.
Yes, and I must say that even this one, just as we are saying, it was better than what we have. This thing we have, don't crucify anybody if anybody says it's useless. Because honestly, is it not called take-home pay? Who takes home 70,000 these days?
In Nigeria of today.
And that is what's supposed to sustain the family
for a month.
I know we are talking about that the CNGs will be available so that transport. I've said that several times on this program. I have not seen the CNG. I have not seen the reduction in price. It is still as high as it has been. I have not seen any difference. I don't know if anybody has seen. Come and show me. I have seen some vehicles. They say it's sitting there. In fact, let me tell you that last week I purposely entered one, the cost was still the same thing with the others. And you know the most annoying thing? Of course, I said I will never try it again. Thank God I was sitting in front. You knew that the number of people standing, oh God, was so much more than the number of people sitting. And the annoying thing was that the woman that was the conductor would keep asking people to come in.
Yeah,
and they would and I'd be asking her, where is it? Where is it? They just take us.
They just come in.
Oh my God, you can't talk of breathing. I had to at the stage get up and face outside the window outside so that let me get some. I said, God, I'm sorry I've entered this. I will never do it again. I just wanted to see it so as when I come here, I talk about it. But I couldn't find. So people should stop telling me about this CNG is making things cheaper. There is no cheaper anything. No. Even the cars that have changed from the normal gas fuel to PMS, from PMS to CNG, I can't even find them. And if you find them, it's the same price still. Of course. They say going from Lube to Area 1 is 800 naira. The same thing with the other one, it's 800 naira.
Yeah.
And everybody will tell you, what are you saying? So what are we saying? There's no impact. All we know is that a lot has happened and we've not seen anything. If anybody has seen, let him come on this program. Let's talk about it. Show me so that let's talk about it.
Well, that's the reality of the Nigeria struggle as of today.
And our roads have not gotten any better, my brother.
No, you know, it's very easy for government to just come up with some policy, some government ideas and so on and so forth. Nigeria government, if you look at it historically, have always have so many, policy, so many promises, even during campaign. Like we're about starting campaign now, you always hear so many things. But in reality, what Nigerians has faced mostly is that, in trying to translate these policies, which perhaps look beautiful on paper, translate it into the reality of everyday Nigerians have always been almost impossible. And that's the issue. So when you talk about CNG, I remember I was in Lagos some months back, and many of their these tricycle riders have shifted to that CNG, but they still collect the same price. The same price. If you have to board any of them, they still collect the same price, and you don't blame them. You know why? How much is this keke now? This tricycle that used to be more than 25,000. Exactly. I mean, there was a time, I still remember when it was sold less than 200,000. And today
it is 850,000.
No, keke is now it's about 3 million.
Oh my God, I'm sorry for what I've said.
Keke is over 3 million.
I'm known in the past.
Talking about tricycle now is over 3 million.
Over 3 million naira.
Now, so that's so when you begin to talk about price adjustments, in terms of, relating to a source of energy in terms of maybe PMS or gas, then of course you will not completely focus on the consumption consumption level or consumption price of the energy source. You also look at the price of the capital. The capital is the keke or the tricycle as we know it. And now, how do you recover? Some of them are even on hire purchase. So
how can they pay?
Somebody who has taken hire purchase, how do you expect him to work and get out this money, pay back, and then continue his life? So there are a lot of issues, in Nigeria economy. I can tell you.
I must say, please, for the sake of time, I want us to discuss also what has to do with the hospital health system. Hospitals. I know that I escorted someone to the hospital some 3 months ago, and they were told that you pay 5,000 to get the card. General hospital, 5,000 to get the card for treatment. And I asked, is it not this same hospital that we used to come and get card for 200 naira, 500 naira? Now it's 5,000 naira to get the card. You've not seen any doctor. 5,000 to get the card. Then when you get the card, you go for the everything. By the time you finish, the amount of money, I mean, if I spend 5,000 to get the card, what am I doing in that hospital in the first place? Honestly, I thank God, this God that has helped me, that I don't understand these health matters. I have been okay.
Yeah.
I really thank God.
You're fortunate.
5,000 naira to get a card before going to see the doctor. So how much is the medicine that I will get?
Well, just like I said earlier, that's the reality many people struggle with in Nigeria. In fact, one of the prayer you should have now, or most Nigerians should have now, is that they should not have a health crisis issue.
Hey.
You know, because it's going to worsen their situation, I tell you. You know, because our country is not configured to actually, it's not completely configured in terms of governance to cater for the well-being of a citizen in terms of health. That does not mean we don't have some things, you know, in place like public health sectors and all of that. But I mean, what's the use of a health sector that is? I mean, sometimes you realize that you go to general hospital as an example. Now somebody is sick, they take such a person to general. I mean, taking the lead from what you just said.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know how much the card costs now. I know
it was 2 weeks ago that somebody went there, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I remember the
last
amount of it, which I know years back, was 500. Years back. I don't know of now.
Can you imagine someone like you go to the hospital now?
I mean,
with that kind of money?
Even if it's 5,000 now, then I mean, I can just imagine how that is going to affect a lot of people struggling with economy right now. Because look, let's face the fact, how many people are truly, you know, employed, you know, formally in Nigeria? How many people are under this role? Even the civil servants. I mean, even those who are those who work in ministry today, you know, government ministries. How many of them can easily just, if truly it is their salary they rely on, they can afford the right kind of, you know, adequate health care.
Apart from those on the NHIS thing.
Yeah. Yeah, don't forget, even the NHIS you're mentioning, there are some, you know, area of health that it doesn't cover.
It doesn't cover, yes. It's not everything.
So that's why I said you just have to pray. Many Nigerians who fall under the, you know, below this you know, poverty stratification of economy. In fact, the only thing that many have resorted to is anointing oil. Many has resorted to anointing oil. That's why you go to church now. Many, in fact, has taken that place as the only solace, as the only place to go and say, this is the only way.
Since they are still down in
Nigeria. So they're in Nigeria, and then when you go, before you go out, you anoint yourself. And, you know, you just don't have to, you know, go into, you don't imagine a poor person in Nigeria today to have health crisis.
Now let's look at this other one. I know someone who is still down right now. I think it happened about 3 weeks ago. She was involved in a bike accident, and the leg and the hand were involved in this, and the hand is still, the leg has healed almost, but the hand is still suffering. They've done all the things they're doing, and I keep looking at it. I say, where would this fellow get the money to do this treatment, all this one? And we were talking, they said it was one bad side of the road that they went through, and the bike fell. I said, bad roads in Nigeria in 2026. When are we going to knock off this idea of this bad road thing? Let the local government do its own bit. Let the state government do its own bit. Let the federal government do its own bit. And we talk about movements right now from Abuja to the south. It's almost an impossible thing, because what I used to know, that was what I would do, like it would take 6 hours to go from here to Onitsha, for example. Now it's a different matter. From 6 hours then to 14 to 15 hours right now, because of how bad the road is. And when I even mentioned this 14 to 15 hours to someone this week that I just ended, they said, with prayer. So it is the 14 and 15 hours with prayer.
So that means no sure.
Yeah. Anything can still happen there. Talk about insecurity and the badness of the road. Let me use that word. I think we should have pictures of bad roads now, because we know that there are bad roads we've seen in our country. All this put together. Who is feeling it? Who is feeling it? Is it not the citizens?
Well, it's the citizens. You know, the political elite has nothing really to lose, because many of them came into governments even as billionaires.
And they don't even utilize these roads.
So they don't ply the road. You know, the only time you see them on the road is within the city.
Yes, within the city.
Many times you don't see them plying the road on the high journey. You know, they go by air. And have you heard of any air crash?
No, at least
because everything is organized, right?
Organized,
and everybody is monitoring.
Just like this vehicle you're seeing now, who will sure that this vehicle will go through? So just look at it and see. How can you expect this vehicle to pass through this place without falling? You know that's the gap between what we call governance in Nigeria and elite formation, and then against the people. Once you have the idea of elitism in governance without governance itself as the core essence, then of course that's what you're going to have. So and even going to 2027, you are still seeing the same thing playing or people are still getting to think of people that they will vote, that people that will give them money.
Exactly.
So give them money and I'll vote for you. And you keep wondering, is this person mad?
Exactly. You'll be wondering why our country has remained the same, or even going, we are somehow progressing, especially in terms of economy. I mean, just look at
infrastructure development.
Just look at our level of infrastructure. Some years back, when I just came into Abuja newly, I know there was some level of stable electricity at some time.
Yes.
But right now, you could have. I mean, we can hardly have it. I mean, especially if you go to the rural areas, this world within Abuja, many people are struggling to even have 6 hours or 4 hours, power supply.
So many times when you talk to them, they tell you you're bad sick. What about it? Did I put myself?
There is no even, look, that idea of even band A, band C, or whatever, they are even completely wrong. The policy is completely, for me, is complete. I think I saw that. I mean, Lagos is trying to abolish it or something like that. I saw it recently on the dailies. I think it should be completely removed from our system, because that's also further widening the gap between the rich
and the poor,
in our country. What government has as a responsibility is to ensure that all citizens are equal in the face of the law.
Yes.
And so when we are talking about public infrastructure, it should be for the good of all, not few, not sectors, not some people, some privileged people in society. I mean, you can just imagine a country where, look at FCT as an example, where you have, some environment, when you go there within the city of Abuja, you just know, you see clearly that you're in a city. You see the road well tarred, you see the lights, the street lights, well arranged, you see security adequately, in some places, especially, I can mention a few of them. You go to Asokoro at night, you will see this thing clearly. Yes. Go to Maitama, go to Gusakwe, many of them, central area, business district and all that. You're going to see that these environments are organized, and some level of public infrastructure are there. But immediately you move away from such places and then you move into the major places where you have the real populace.
Yes.
Because the people who live within the city are just very few.
Very few.
Those who live in the suburb are greater in number than those in the main city of Abuja. Yeah. And then you go to those suburbs and then you don't find government infrastructure in places. You don't find potable water, pipe-on water. You don't find electricity that is stable. You don't find police station that is well organized, and so on and so forth. And you begin to, road. You go to some of these places, you don't even have road. And then you begin to wonder, are these people also part of Abuja? Are they also citizens of the country? These are the questions. So it talks about the focus of government in our country, the focus of governance in Nigeria. Is government for the people? Is it decided by the people and for the people?
I wonder.
Or is it decided by the people but for the elite political party? I mean,
that's part of what we discussed the other day on the economy today. Because we are now looking at the government, whether it is for a few, by a few, and of a few.
Yes.
No longer the people.
Once government cannot, for instance, you look at security, this insecurity that Nigeria is, going through right now. I mean, even now that we are talking about what has happened in Oyo State, we have those children still held captive in those forests. As at today, even now that we are speaking now, go to most of these schools in the rural area, even within this city of Abuja, those schools within the rural area, you hardly find presence of police there.
No, we're not talking about that. Right?
And even if most of them are
still not fenced up to today.
Exactly. So we're talking about the one that has happened in Oyo State.
Some of them don't even have policemen, not police, but security, normal security men.
And you know why? You see,
there's no money to pay.
I wish that a day will come where we have the real legislature in our country.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion that the gap in our democratic system is legislature.
Yes.
Once you don't have the right kind of legislature in a country in terms of democratic setting,
you can expect anything.
You can have the right kind of.
I want to thank you so much. Because of time, we have to let it be at this point in time. Thank you so much, Matthew Obi-Sesson, for coming.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure. Please do come again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Dear viewer, this I will round off stay with you on the program today. I've worked with a lot of people, really. There is Suleiman Hassan. They also have had Eke Chukwunalu that assisted us. Thank you so much. Kajetan Piles has been working with us, and we thank you, P. Kaje. I want to also say thanks to Victor Adeye, the editor, and Victor Chisaya, as well as Oluwaseun Ade Soji. Thank you. I pray that you continue enjoying yourself as we work together. Not forgetting Felix Akinjabola. This is Okechukwu Onubogo. I want to say thank you for being here. And please keep staying, because there are many things to enjoy on this program. May I tell you, if you go on the net, you still find us in YouTube, in Facebook, and all that. You can watch and see what we have got. From me, again, Okechukwu Onubogo, I say, may the very best happen to us all the time.